ancient fish ponds that the ancient Hawaiians built. Oh my God, made a lava rock and shit. Are you? When do we stop and just say it's all bullshit? Come on. The ancient Hawaiians were building these giant fish ponds. I wish I could have got here faster because I guess I could look it up. I don't I don't want to lose this page. Fuck it, we'll just have to do it a different time. You actually love us. I do. I appreciate the fuck out of your stupidity, that's for sure. This would be a hell of a lot harder to do if you guys weren't so dumb and constantly proving everything I'm saying correct. So it just makes it easier for me. And you also build my feed. I hope all of you pedophiles absolutely kill yourselves. And I absolutely intend on removing the J's as soon as possible. So you'll see. You'll see. All right, let's go back to this. The first, but we've been doing Van Allen. Go watch part 1. You want to see the rest. The first balloon rose properly to 70,000 feet, but the rocket hanging under it did not fire. The second raccoon behaved in the same maddening way. On the theory that extreme cold at high altitude might have stopped the clockwork supposed to ignite the rockets, Van Allen heated cans of orange juice, smuggled them into the third raccoon's gondola, and wrapped the whole business in insulation. The rocket fired. He smuggled in heated cans of orange juice. Oh, Lord, have mercy. This is ridiculous. In 1953, raccoons and their science payloads fired off Newfoundland detected the first hint of radiation belt surrounding Earth. The low-cost raccoon technique was later used by the Office of Naval Research and the University of Iowa research groups in 1953 through 1955 and 1957 from ships at sea between Boston and Thule, Greenland. In 1954, in a private discussion about the Redstone Project with Ernest Stundlinger, Werner von Braun expressed his belief that they should have a real, honest to goodness scientist involved in their little unofficial satellite project. Stuhlinger followed up with a visit to Van Allen at his home in Princeton, New Jersey, of course, where Van Allen was on a sabbatical leave from Iowa to work on Stellarator design. Stellarator. Van Allen later recounted, Stuhlinger's 1954 message was simple and eloquent. By virtue of ballistic missile developments at Army Ballistic Missile Agency, ABMA, it was realistic to expect that within a year or two, a small scientific satellite could be propelled into a durable orbit around the Earth, Project Orbiter. I expressed a keen interest in performing a worldwide survey of the cosmic ray intensity above the atmosphere. I mean, can you imagine if crackheads actually sat around trying to learn about the atmosphere and all that? Like, I get that this is above your fucking pay grade, right? I get that I'm using words and talking about things that you don't understand and all that stuff, and you're really, really dumb. I get it. But do you have to keep acknowledging it? Like, do you have to keep pointing it out? It's amazing. It's fucking amazing. This is the best you can come up with. And the best you can come up with, like, if I'm this meth head, crackhead, blah, 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 and I'm making you look bad, what does that say about you? You should at the very least be championing me. Man, this guy is just clearly so much smarter than me. That's why I can't say anything of merit. International Geophysical Year, 1958, or 57-58. Model of Van Allen radiation belts created by NASA. Oh, good God. Come on now. Oh, they're so funny. In 1950, an event occurred that began small but was to affect the future of Van Allen and his countrymen. In March, British scientist Sidney Chapman dropped in on Van Allen and remarked that he would like to meet other scientists in the Washington area. Van Allen was like, sweet. All right, let's go. I was going to go fucking see him anyway. Van Allen got on the phone, soon gathered. Soon gathered 8 or 10 top scientists, Lloyd Berkner, Fred Singer, and Harry Vestine, in the living room of his small brick house. I'm sure he had a small brick house. It was what you might call a pedigree bull session, he says. The talk turned to geophysics and the 2 international polar years that had enlisted the world's leading nations to study the Arctic and Antarctic regions in 1882 and 1832. Okay, I got to check these out. Sorry. The international polar years are collaborative international efforts with intensive research focused on polar regions. So why would you call it a year? Carl Y. Pritchett, an Austro-Hungarian naval officer, you know what that means. Whenever they say that, he's a J, motivated the endeavor in 1875, but died before it first occurred in 1882. Oh my God, it's so goofy. To think that they were doing this is it's so silly. 50 years later, a second IPY took place. The International Geophysical Year was inspired by the IPY and was organized 75 years after the first IPY in 1957-58. The fourth and most recent IPY covered 2 full annual cycles from March 2007 to March 2009. The first International Polar Year. The first International Polar Year was proposed by an Austro-Hungarian naval officer, Karl Wojciech, in 1875 and organized by George Neumayer, director of the German Maritime Observatory. Rather than settling for traditional individual and national efforts, they pushed for a coordinated scientific approach to researching Arctic phenomena. Observers made coordinated geophysical measurements at multiple locations in the Arctic during the same year, enabling multiple views of the same phenomenon, allowing broader interpretation of the available data and validation of the results obtained. Well, that makes sense. And you call it a year because, okay, now I get it. All right. I just think it's hilarious. Like, what scientific instruments and shit did they have back then? It took 7 years to organize I always think about, like, we're talking about the 1870s, right? What was communication like back then? How were you communicating with scientists all around the world back then? I guess it took 7 years to organize it because how long would it take? And think about, like, how things advance. So I write you a letter today, but over the next 2 weeks, who knows what the fuck's going to happen? 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, however long it takes for you to get that letter, if you get that letter. Like, it's just kind of silly when you think about it. Your YOUR too kind. My too kind what? Look at this. These people hate me so much that they watched me for an hour and a half knowing I couldn't read the comments. Now they're back for a second round because they hate me so much. Today, from 8:30 in the morning until they've been here. I'm supposed to feel like a loser because I command this much attention? Are you out of your fucking mind? Observers, blah, blah. It took 7 years to organize the first IPY, which had 11 participating nations: the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Netherlands, Norway, Russia, Sweden, UK, and the United States. That is a lot of fucking area. That's a lot of people. 1887. The aforementioned countries operated 12 stations in the Arctic. 12 stations. And 2 in the subarctic. 6 additional meteorological stations were organized by Newmar at Moravian mission stations on the east coast of Labrador. Observations followed on meteorology, geomagnetism, auroral phenomenon, ocean currents, tides, structure, and the motion of ice and atmospheric electricity in 1887. I mean, it's just, I wonder, like, you think that's real? Think about the technology we had back then. Or at least what you think the technology was. Because, again, the technology was clearly able to build incredible things, you know, make underground structures, underground mining, undersea mining was capable back then. So, you know, in 1850, they had a submarine that could go 150 feet down, spend 3 hours underwater, and could open a hatch on the bottom so they could harvest oysters and shit from the bottom of the water. 1870 or 1850. Not sure how they were pumping oxygen down. Not sure. I definitely don't know how they could see. They talk about there was this algae, this phosphorescent algae that glowed underwater, but at cold temperatures it didn't glow very well. And even then, we're talking about like very, very little light. And yet these guys are under the water opening up a hatch. Can you imagine being the first guy to be like, no, just open it up? Like explaining it to the crew going, okay, so you're going to go down there. You're going to open up the hatch when you get under the... Open up the hatch? What do you mean? The whole cabin is pressurized. So you could open up the hatch on the bottom and you could harvest oysters. Have you tried this? No, but I think it's going to work. Like, can you imagine how stupid you have to be? Okay, I'll open up the hatch. More than 40 meteorological observatories around the world expanded the IPY programs from observations for this period. Data and images from the first IPY have recently been made available to browse and download on the internet. Wow. It only took 140 fucking years. Well, thank you. I mean, that's really nice. Exactly. That's the best question in the world. Why are they always J's? Because the narrative isn't real. These records of the first IPY offer a rare glimpse of the circumpolar Arctic environment as it existed in the past and hold the potential to improve our understanding of historical climate variability and environmental change in the Arctic. The second International Polar Year. Soviet postage stamp commemorating the year. Wow. So they make this stamp, right? And obviously the land is the pink part. All that white part is water. What is it? Or no, that's okay. So is that? I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't even know what lands those are supposed to represent. They don't look very accurate in any way. What land is that? That don't look right. They got their airplane with the skis on it. The International Meteorological Organization the predecessor of the World Meteorology, the WMO, proposed and promoted the second IPY 1932-1933, shortly after World War One. Shortly after World War One, right? Because it's not like the world is recovering from mass destruction and shit. Maybe we should focus on at home. Nah, we need to do a polar expedition. Spend all that money, resources, and all that shit on what's going on in the polar regions. That makes sense. Shortly after World War One, mysterious behavior in telegraph, radio, and electric power and telephone lines convinced engineers and scientists of the fact that the electrical geophysics of the Earth needed more study. What? Suddenly? Suddenly there's all this interference and they're like, oh, we should probably look into it. The availability of airplanes, motorized sea and land transport, and new instruments like radio sondes enabled these phenomenon to be investigated. It took 50 years for them to go back. They never thought, hey, maybe, we were super capable of doing this in the 1880s, in 1887. Let's do it again. Like, no? I mean, what accurate research are you getting looking at shit 50 years apart? That seems fucking stupid. You have no idea, like, what could be going on in that 50 years. At an international conference of directors of meteorological services in Copenhagen in 1928, it was decided to undertake another intensive and coordinated international research effort focused on the polar regions during 1932-1933. Again, we're just done with world wars. And now we're like, all right, you guys want to work together on these science projects? It's really cold. This is fucking nuts. The 50th anniversary of the first international polar year. Right, exactly 50 fucking years. Oh, so it was 1830 or 1882-83. I thought it was 87. My bad. It was proposed to explicitly include in the plan for the second IPY the goal to investigate how observations in the polar regions could improve the accuracy of weather forecasts and the safety of air and sea transport. How does that even make sense? Why would it fucking matter? 44 countries participated in the ground IPY, which heralded advances in meteorology, magnetism, atmospheric science, and in the mapping of ionospheric phenomenon that advanced radio science and technology. 27 observation stations were established in the Arctic. A vast amount of data was collected, and a world data center was created under the organization that eventually came to be called the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO. Due to the Great Depression, the plan of erecting a network of stations to Antarctica had to be abandoned. Also, a great amount of data generated in this year was lost due to the Second World War. Don't you get it? Like, that's what they do. It's like people are like, hey, wait, 1932, 33, just got done with wars and why are we doing this? We have, people can't eat. We have fucking bread lines and shit. What's going on? You gotta love all those old pictures of all the people that were standing in the food lines and shit in their best suit and tie. It's really interesting how it all works. Think about it, man. Just think about what they're telling you and does it actually make sense? Remember what it's like to be that kid and first hearing these things and going, that doesn't kind of make sense. But then knowing you have to repeat it so you get the good grade. That doesn't make any sense. Why would that be the case? That doesn't make any sense. Just see what you like. They're just lying to us. It's all J bullshit. All J lies, man. All they do is lie. Anyway, I'm done. I'm going to do more tomorrow. So we'll go to part 3. Fucking pedophiles, kill yourself. Everyone else, go get your free download. Even the pedophiles, go get your free download. www.the-buildabrick-group.com. Link is in the description, along with the link to a song for the Facebook page. But yeah, pedophiles, absolutely kill yourself. What's up, dude?